YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back after Sunday's action in Week 12. I'm here to give you my takeaways for all the games from Sunday like we do every single Monday. We have weekly in-season content picks, score predictions, power rankings, a lot more, so join us for all that. We got off-season content as well, covering the NFL draft, free agency. So, yeah, join us, like, subscribe, turn notifications on, follow our Twitter for in-game updates, non-game updates, a lot of injuries going on, so check it out. Link down below, recent videos, and our Twitter, so check it out. Yeah, the Bengals. Are the Bengals back? Well, I guess saying the Bengals is back, that almost sounds like they're back to being bad. But no, they're back to being good, how they were playing quite a few weeks ago, earlier in the season, I suppose. Yeah, not much on this game just because the game was over pretty quickly. The Bengals just dominated this game from the start. They can win with another game where the passing game, Joe Burrow, didn't really have to do a whole lot. Some big plays in there, getting T. Higgins going, but they didn't even need him to win. Kind of like last week. This was a little more dominant from the start here, but Joe Mixon continues to roll. They continue to do very well in terms of run blocking. Mixing it up, mixing up. How they get him inside, outside. So just a dominant running performance there from them. So, again, talk about it last week. It's just kind of the beauty of the Bengals and what makes them, very good is because you have to worry about all these receivers in the passing game, downfield passing game, but you have to worry about the run game as well. They kind of get in your head, making it seem like, man, that's a run-first team, right? We got to stop the run, but, they might sneak up on you. It might be more of a passing attack team like we saw earlier in years. So, it is not an easy team to game plan with, deal with, but on top of that, how about the defense? We talk about they win with just running the ball, but they also win with defense. The defense is playing outstanding. It feels like I would categorize it as a lockdown defense right now. I mean, they got a pick six. They got Eli Apple getting his hands on the ball, but they're just feel like a lockdown defense. They're not really letting you run all over them. They're not letting you throw all over them. It's impressive, and you got to credit the coaching staff, defensive coaching staff, because it's kind of some young / under-the-radar guys. Like we said, they got Eli Apple playing pretty well. Mike Hilton, who's not really an under-the-radar guy, is one of the better slot corners of football, who came from the Steelers. I thought that was a great pickup for the Bengals. Gets a pick six on his former team. They got these guys balling. Trey Hendrickson's playing very, very well. Sam Hubbard, linebacker group, which has been a problem in the past. So the Bengals could beat you in so many different ways, and that's a reason to get on the Bengals hype train. We got real hyped on them, and they blew 2 games in a row. I'm just kind of wondering what that was. Is that going to sneak back up? For the Bengals' sake, let's hope not, because they're playing some really good football, and as wide open as the AFC is, Bengals are tough. They're tough to play. Steelers, yeah, it's been a tough stretch here. They went on a bit of a winning streak. As they should with that schedule. I think tying the Lions was tough. They had to win that game, so that's where it kind of started, actually. And they had a shot to beat the Chargers and couldn't pull that off, so it's kind of been downhill from here. I mean, realistically, reality is they don't have the, Big Ben, obviously a future Hall of Famer, but just kind of showing his age and some maybe right now. They don't have the quarterback play. They don't have the offensive line play. They got a solid running back. They got some solid receivers, but it really doesn't matter when the 2 most important things, offensive line, quarterback, are really not there. Defense just isn't the same. The coverage is not the same. The pass rush it's not really the same, but the pass rush isn't. It's not their fault. It's not that group's fault because T.J. Watt's gonna ball out. But you could say they miss a guy like Bud Dupree because. And Stephon Tuitt, who's a fantastic player who's been hurt, obviously. But Bud Dupree was the guy that opened things up for everyone else. We talked about last year. He'd line up all over the place, line up on the line, off the ball, inside. And he was kind of the pre-snap problem, and that opened things up for the rest of the defense. So you start to see how much they miss. And we saw at the end of last year when he was out. So that kind of just stands what it is. And the inside linebackers aren't playing too well either. So reality is they got some star players. They got some star players, but they have units that are really struggling, and that's kind of the problem right now. So they're going to have to dig themselves a little bit of a hole. It just takes, get a win, and then you go on a streak. This is that time where teams randomly do that. We see like a team like the Dolphins, heating up, the 49ers, where people didn't really expect. Maybe the Dolphins more so they didn't expect. But It's really all it takes. But impressed with the Bengals. Looking like a playoff team right now. Looking like just a pain in the ass to deal with for teams. If I'm game planning for this team on both sides of the ball, it just seems like a headache, and that's what I like, especially when it's crazy talking about the Bengals in the playoffs. They got to get there first, but playoffs is all about the game plan. And when you have a tough team here to game plan against, it's tough. It's real tough. Next game, Buccaneers and the Colts. A wild comeback for the Buccaneers, and not really that surprising, but the way that the Colts were outplaying them, maybe a little bit, and they pull it off in the end, a pretty entertaining game. And I'm going to go on a little bit of rant here because all the talk I've seen is pretty much bashing of Frank Reich and the Colts coaching staff. I think it's mainly Frank Reich. He's taking a lot of heat. Felt like every time they lost this year, he took a lot of heat. I mean, every time a team's disappointing, they lose a little bit. Of course, that's going to happen. But I'm not on that band that wagon there to rip Frank Reich. I like the Colts still. I love the coaching staff. I love this coaching staff. I like the Colts. I like this team. People are, I think, getting too down. It's kind of, and a week ago, everyone was hyped, and I got like Frank Reich and, this coaching staff in the Colts, and it's kind of back and forth this year. I understand somebody's got to take some heat when they started the season off pretty poorly, but it's either you believe or you don't. We can't be switching back and forth. I see a lot of switching back and forth. I like this Colts. They lost. They kind of blew a comeback. I like the coaching staff. I like this Colts team. So it's either you believe or you don't at this point. And I know there's a lot of ripping of Frank Reich because my phone's going off like crazy. We got Christian McCaffrey done for the entire season. So that's unfortunate. Just can't stay healthy. So people are ranking Frank Reich because they didn't run the ball a lot. Jonathan Taylor's been the best back in football this year since, pretty almost the whole year. I know Derrick Henry was in that conversation, but that's besides the point. And the Colts been the best rushing team, and why not give them the ball a lot more? Well, there's multiple problems here. I would say perfect world, maybe when you took that good lead, maybe you can give them the ball a bit more, maybe, in a perfect world. And there's sometimes in that scenario where I will rip the coaches and the other team. I've done it before. But why I really don't put a lot of blame here is because the Colts completely outplayed the Buccaneers in the first half. Would they do it? They really stayed away from the run. They mixed it up a little bit to keep the Buccaneers on their toes. The Buccaneers were already on their toes because the Colts, that team, it's a rushing team. It's a dominant rushing team. The Buccaneers got to make sure they stop the run. That's what they pride themselves on. They stop the run first. They're very good at it, but they haven't seen the Colts. So mixing in some runs, focusing on stopping the run, and the Buccaneers having a pretty vulnerable secondary this year. They play a lot of soft coverage. That was even last year, too. Secondary played much better last year, but how you beat them, we saw the Saints, how they had success in them. Expose the soft coverage, get underneath, and then take those shots when you need to. Exactly what the Colts did. Absolutely perfect game plan. Absolutely perfect game plan from Frank Reich and company. And they were outplaying the Buccaneers. They were having success. So you go in the second half. You're playing the defending Super Bowl champions. You're playing Tom Brady. You're playing, there's star players everywhere. You're playing Bruce Arians. They are going to come back on you. That's got to be the mindset. Let's not get conservative. We know what works. We're outplaying them. So let's continue to roll. We did it against the Bills, and we continue to roll. We put it away. And that's what Frank Reich and company did. They wanted to throw. They wanted to do what works, and they know if they're going to sit there and run the ball, the Buccaneers' stout run defense, they're going to figure it out. They're going to stop it. So the Colts did what they had to do. They just turned the ball over. And Wentz has been playing better. This year, he had a great deep ball, beautiful deep ball in this game. He's been playing better. He's impressed me at times, quite a bit, especially down the stretch. But you can't really get mad at Reich for unless you're a person that just doesn't trust Carson Wentz a whole lot, and he's going to turn the ball. If you're that type of person, okay, I'll allow you to kind of rip Reich for trusting him, but it's kind of tough to do that at the same time. But he trusted what was working, and going against defending Super Bowl champs, not letting them come back, and it did backfire. So he's going to take some heat when things backfire. But just quite a few turnovers in there. That just can't happen. Nyheim Hines also muffed a punt, which is a big one. That's kind of, I'm not putting a lot of, it happened. It's not good. He can't muff that punt in a. It's a playoff type game, even though a Super Bowl would have to be to see these teams. But you get my point. It's kind of almost a fluky type thing. I don't really think Hines, I'm not worried about him going forward. So that was unfortunate. All right. Again, perfect world. Okay, Taylor probably should have got some more carries, but I actually love the mindset. I love the game plan going into this one from the Colts. I am not going to be one ripping Frank Reich and company here. I still like the Colts. There's been a lot of people kind of back and forth on them this year, mainly on Frank Reich. What I don't want to see, the Colts, when they go win a wild card game this year, I don't want to see everyone back on the Frank Reich train. You pick one or you're not picking one, all right? So that's what I don't want to see. It's going to happen. But, so another thing is if you watch the game, you notice actually Carson Wentz actually checked out of a lot of plays. He actually killed the original play at the line of scrimmage an insane amount of times, a lot of times. So we really don't know if Wentz chooses the play when he does that, if he completely changes it. It's just something we're all assuming. So I don't know if it's really fair to. We don't even know a lot of the original play calls on some of those. So maybe Reich was calling a run. We don't know. I'm not saying for sure. What I do know is that for sure that Carson Wentz checked out a lot of plays, and I got no problem with that either. No problem. But that's before you go in on a guy like Frank Reich. You got to understand more of the game there, what was happening. So I'm not, it's a tough one. It would have been massive if the Colts won that game. I like the way they're what they're capable of. Wentz, little inconsistent, so that's the scary part. But other than that, I've been liking what the team's been showing us here. So it's a tough loss. But Buccaneers, it's a good come from behind win. Leonard Fournette went bonkers in that game. They were clutch. Defense clutched up, got some turnovers. Shaq Barrett had a massive strip sack in this one. I mean, absolutely massive. Colts were hot at the end of the first half, going into the second half. And then, they get the ball first, and they're marching on the field. I'm like, man, they're outplaying them at the level where it's an ass beating. They're going to make this an ass beating now. And then, just mistakes obviously started happening, and that really changed everything, from there. So the Buccaneers clutched up. They didn't really get a whole bunch. We didn't see much from Chris Godwin. We didn't see much from the receivers, their stacked receivers, which is crazy for the Buccaneers. And they still won, and they were sloppy, very, very sloppy early on. So that's kind of the positive of the Bucs. The negative is they still have that sloppiness to them, which could hold them back from winning the Super Bowl, because if that shows up once, they could still win games like that because they're that good, but that's not good. Why couldn't receivers get going more? That's not great. The soft coverage from the secondary is not great. But it was a disastrous, maybe is a strong word, but almost a disastrous start. They didn't really have their receivers going like they normally do, and they played a really good team, and they still came back and won. So it kind of shows how good they are. They're able to overcome those problems. So that's kind of the good thing for the Bucs. Another big play was that Winfield interception on Pittman. I think that both guys were just kind of struggling to track the ball. There was definitely too much air under that, way too much air. So that one definitely is on Wentz. There was a little bit of contact. The more I saw it, though, I like the no call because, making a play on the ball, it still wasn't enough. Live, I was kind of questioning it, but so that was just a ridiculous play by Antoine Winfield Jr. So just those big time plays, the Buccaneers turned the game around. So Colts are still a sneaky team. They got to fight to get in the playoffs. I think they're worthy of the playoffs. We'll see what they can do. Panthers, Dolphins, surprised by this one, and I just got the notification while I was recording this that McCaffrey is done for the year now. So that's unfortunate. He's had a number of injuries here. But yeah, rough go for the Panthers. The Dolphins are hot. Their defense is balling. Another lockdown playmaking defense. Same time, they get their hands on the ball. They make plays. They'll blitz you. They're blitzing you. It's so obvious. They have the most blitzes in the NFL, and they still hit you with it. They had Cam. They were causing Cam to have all sorts of problems. He had just as many batted passes as completions. Pretty wild. I'm just not thrilled with the offensive coaching staff. I thought they blew the game last week, and I just still think it's a problem. No matter what quarterback Teddy Bridgewater's playing much better with the Broncos as he was with the Panthers, and that's while he's injured. And they're paying him to do that. So it's starting to look at the coaching staff. Maybe they're just not working well with the quarterbacks. They're not choosing their quarterbacks well at the same time. Just nothing going on offense. The Dolphins defense. To start this game, the Dolphins didn't even have to do anything on offense to get a lead. They didn't. The Panthers actually started pretty quickly. It was wild because the Dolphins are actually a team that starts pretty well. They usually go score off the script right away. That's kind of been the problem. That's a good thing, but then the problem after that, they can't do anything after that. And right away, they're moving the ball down the field, but then they don't end up with anything, so they don't end up with their touchdown that they normally do. So that's saying, this might not be good. The Dolphins going to get hammered in this game, but then they go and they hammer them, so and they had a block punt for a touchdown. There was a point where, and then Cam throws an interception. They go score again. I think it was 14-7, and I want to say that the Panthers had more than double the yards of the Dolphins at that early stage, and basically the Dolphins didn't need any offense at that point. They needed to punch the ball in the end zone still. Then they got Gaskin was the first touchdown off a Wildcat. They didn't need any offense to be up 14-7, and then they kind of got rolling more offensively. They got Jalen Waddle going in some crucial situations. See the speed on him. Panthers defense hasn't been playing as good. I thought it was a top 3 defense at one point, and it's kind of going downhill. I do think that's part of the offense. People don't realize offense can make or break a defense sometimes. If a defense is just constantly out there wearing down, back on the field after 3 plays, it's impossible to play defense, So the Dolphins defense kind of created that. But it just ended up being a beatdown here. So, the Dolphins are hot. Teams just get hot this time of the year. They don't look back, and they got a pretty favorable schedule coming up too. Not an easy one. The Giants are next for the Dolphins. The Giants are never a free one. It's a team that you view as definitely beatable. We should beat the Giants, but they're pretty tough, so that's going to be a tough game. But the Dolphins are getting hot at the right time. I was starting to feel the Panthers, and they're letting me down. They're letting everybody down here. I really think the coaching staff's letting them down. I'm not worried about the defensive coaching staff. I know Matt Rule is involved with both. He's kind of a both sides of the ball in terms of his mind, his background. But Joe Brady's been pretty disappointing, and I guess they just don't have the quarterback and the offensive line to deal right now. So Dolphins are hot, and they're rolling right now. Yep. Patriots and Titans, 36-13. That's a big win for the talk about hot. Patriots are real hot right now. They're real hot. Looking like a playoff team. Big game against the Bills next week to stay at the top of the AFC East. It's Monday night. But the Patriots ended up with a big win. If you watch this game, there was some fumbles. Mainly the fumbles we'll talk about that were the difference. If the Titans take care of the ball, they secure the ball better. This is really believe it or not, it's probably a whole different game. I'd say the Patriots probably win still, so I'm not saying it's flips, but you see 36-13, and at the end of the day, it wasn't close. Fumbles are a part of the game. The Patriots defense makes plays. They create these plays. They get their hands in the ball. J.C. Jackson gets a 4th down end zone interception, huge interception there. The Patriots just make plays, so that's just part of the game. I know the Titans are missing a lot of guys, too. Maybe that's why they're fumbling, making some bad plays. But it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Patriots just at the end kind of dominate this game. I know it's probably closer than the score showed, but the Patriots kind of created that. So, another big time game for the Patriots. Just executing right moment, just a big play type of team. It's just a playmaking type of team. Kendrick Bourne had a really good game. Started hot. Got that one go. He got down the sideline. Don't know how he didn't get hit out either. So he had himself a pretty big game. It's just the Titans aren't right now because they're the most beat up team in football. And that's why we get outcomes like this. But at this point, it is what it is. You got to manage with it. I guess the good news for the Titans, the bad news is they are probably the most beat up team in football right now. I'd say them, the Saints. It's probably another team you could debate. A lot of teams really. But the good news is for the Titans, a lot of these guys aren't really done. They come back. They're coming back. Derrick Henry will be back for the playoffs. A.J. Brown, Julio Jones will be back. I guess durability, availability will be their concern. But they will get these guys back. I'm not worried about their defense at all. Their defense didn't give up, the 36 points technically. So it's just kind of a move on with the Titans. The Patriots, they keep rolling. It's a great time of the year to get hot. They got the Bills next. They'll punch you in the mouth. They'll be a playmaker on defense. They'll create those plays. And they got that big play now compared to the early season when they didn't on offense as well. You see Mac Jones throwing the ball downfield. Again, Kendrick Bourne making some big plays. Jonnu Smith against his former team. So people will say they don't really have that big play downfield. I'd actually argue that. I disagree. And I think they're just unleashing some stuff now. So the Patriots could They can do about anything right now. So the Patriots are pretty scary on top of the AFC being wide open. So watch out for those Patriots. Eagles and Giants, very low scoring game, defensive game here. The Eagles just weren't the same in this game as the past weeks. We talked about this being a possibility. I really talked about it. No Jordan Howard for the Eagles. Were they going to run the ball less? I know Howard was kind of the glue. He would kind of open things up for them. Early downs, getting things going inside, being physical, and that ended up being the case here. It's just clear they don't trust Miles Sanders, and Miles Sanders is kind of that boomer bust type of runner. He's either that he's going to hit the home run or he's going to bounce around the backfield too much and miss a hole or something. So it's kind of the boomer bust type running back. That's kind of how I always felt. He's got talent. He's definitely got talent. That's kind of how I always felt about them and him, and that's kind of what the Eagles view as him. They don't really want him to give him the load. Jordan Howard's a big piece of this offense. He's a big piece of this offense, and we see it's weird, but we see that. Credit to the Giants defense, though. Hurts got going running, and you thought they can fight back, but man, they stopped the run first to start this game. They didn't let that be a factor, kind of like the past games against the defenses against the Eagles these last couple of weeks. And then, they stopped the pass. They could stop the pass. They buckled down and very, very tight in coverage, make plays. Hurts had a bad one. He started running and was clutching up to get them back in the game, and Rager kind of let him down with some drops. But Hurts had a bad one here, some bad throws. The really bad one was right before the half. I mean, he was going to let the clock run all the way down. You should just throw the ball away at some point. And then when he decides to finally throw the ball, he throws it inbounds directly to the Giants, and they get 0 points. I mean, I should never see that from an NFL quarterback. I don't care if you're a starter or not. We should never, ever see that once. So we're starting to get hyped about Hurts. Maybe he's got some upside. Maybe he can be good. That's one of those plays where I see it, I'm like, it's harder to trust the guy. It's one play, but there's sometimes rare occasions where one play could define a guy. And that might be one of those, So I mean, it's just he needs everything. It's a quarterback that needs everything to be going picture perfect for him to be okay in the passing game. And it just happens to be that streak they went on. Things were going pretty picture perfect. So we'll see if they get Jordan Howard back. They'll be better. But it's just an outstanding game for the Giants defense. The Eagles defense did their job as well. They kind of kept them in this game. The Giants offense couldn't do a whole lot, but they did enough in this game. Obviously, but the Giants defense won this game. Giants defense would to me, we're starting to shift a little bit. It was kind of like the beginning of the year. It was kind of Bills and Browns top defenses. The Bills are still up there, but we're kind of going. And the Panthers, Bills, Browns, Panthers were kind of the best defense in my opinion, based off what I see. I don't really care about the stats. And then as season went on, Bills still up there, but we're shifting towards the Patriots at the top. I might put the Giants right there, and the Giants and the Dolphins. The Dolphins are sneaking up there. So we see in crunch time here, we're starting to see it the shift. Those teams with the big time defenses, though, you just wish they had an offense. The Giants should have more of an offense here with the playmakers they got, but quarterback and offensive line situation not helping them. But that was a much needed win. It's a tough one for the Eagles. You got to beat the Giants there, divisional game, and they just couldn't get it done offensively. They had a shot at the end. It was crazy they were going to get it. Boston's got fumbles. I'm like, all right, game's over. They actually get another shot. They actually get a pretty decent one as well. A couple of drops. That last play, Rager had it right near the goal line. He just dropped it. So, and he made an incredible catch earlier in the game. So he's just inconsistent. It's been a tough go for him. Next up, we had the Falcons and Jags. Not much from this one. Cordero Patterson's back for the Falcons, and that was the difference. If he wasn't back in this game, I wonder, would the Jags have won? It's tradition. The Falcons got to let somebody come back. The Jags kind of actually made this a game a little bit. It's just in the Falcons' DNA apparently. But yeah, at one point it was Cordero. I was saying it was Cordero 2 touchdowns, Jaguars 0. And credit to the Falcons defense for stopping the Jaguars. But they've had all kinds of struggles on offense. But the Falcons get it done. I just wish they would go put teams away, not let them come back. Russell Gage played all right. I'm trying to find guys other than Cordero Patterson on the offense, but it was pretty much Kyle Pitts had a pretty big catch. The Jaguars just scored, and then the Falcons needed to convert a third down. It was a bad throw by Ryan. It was behind him, and it was a ridiculous catch by Pitts. That was actually a huge play, kind of go unnoticed, because they would have had to punt right back to the Jaguars right there. Yeah, and kind of the excuse for Trevor Lawrence this whole time, which is somewhat of a legitimate excuse. It's understandable, is that the receivers just have not been getting separation. We've been talking about it. And on top of that, the play callers haven't done a good job trying to work around that. It's kind of their mentality is it is what it is, but what I mean by that is they continue with these long developing plays, long developing routes that are going to be tightly covered. So that's the main negative here. Is on, I'd say, the coaching staff first. I'd say the play designers and callers first, which is likely Bevel. And then I'd say, the receivers. I mean, they just got to get somebody better in there that can get separation. But then we keep saying that, and so now I'm at the point where it's kind of enough is enough, because you see Marvin Jones make an incredible play. It's one play, but it was an incredible play if you saw it. He was tightly covered. He had maybe a step on the guy. And then Trevor Lawrence, it was a somewhat off-target ball, but it's one that kind of needed to be. Let's get it away from the corner, because again, we've been tightly covered. Let me get this away from the corner. Let's try to throw my guy open. He threw his guy open a little too much there because Marvin Jones had to dive and make a really good play, but I still like it from Trevor Lawrence because let's throw my guy. I like the mentality. Let's throw my guy open. Let's get this done here. Marvin Jones makes an incredible catch. But what frustrates me with that play is that they can make those plays. I can throw my guy open. I can make that ridiculous catch. And there's just and then we go back to the plays that there's no separation and we just throw the ball away. We just throw the ball in the dirt, which is throwing the ball away. And there was a point where they get in the red zone, first down, throw it away. Second down, throw it away. Third down, throw it away. Just nothing. I had to take the field goal. I understand a field goal was pretty big in that, or it was good in that situation, but it doesn't mean just throw it away. Throw the situation away. It's kind of, again, guys aren't getting separation. It's not a perfect world, but let's throw guys open. Let's take those risks. Let's make the plays. They lost by 7 to a beatable team. Lawrence got to take some chances here. That's basically what I'm getting to. Again, I don't love the play designs and play calls. I don't love the lack of separation by the receivers. But you see when they go for that play, when they go for it, that's the only way. It's the only way. You're not gonna do anything. I know it's okay because Trevor Lawrence is a rookie and we don't really need him to. You're not gonna win anything anyways, and we don't need him to take all these kinds of chances. But at the end of the day, you do want to progress and you do want to win games. So I was not happy about that, especially the Marvin Jones making that play. And again, people will look at it and say it's an off-target throw. It's a little off-target, but I like that from Trevor Lawrence. He's kind of throwing his guy open. Give me more of that. You're going to have to give me more of that. You have to give all of us more than that. So that frustrates me a little bit. Again, legitimate excuse, but at the same, even I will say it, that it's a problem what's been going on, but it's almost, I'm at the point where it's enough with the excuses. Let's go fucking make a play, So it frustrates me a little bit. What frustrates me with the Falcons is they play a really good game. They outplay their opponent and they got to try to let them back again. Why do they always got to do that? But they get the win and they actually stay alive, very much alive. In the bottom of the NFC playoff there. Jets and Texans, 21-14, both scores, those last two games, 21-14. Jets pull it off. Zach Wilson gets going. I thought this game was actually going to be, I picked the Texans, wasn't super confident about it because it's Jets versus Texans. Who knows what's going to happen? I picked the Texans. Texans get up. It was a 14-3 pretty early. They hit that bomb to Brandon Cooks. They got that weird turnover by Wilson, throwing off some guys back. Texans bomb to Brandon Cooks. Pretty tightly covered. Beautiful ball. Beautiful catch. Touchdown. 14-3 Texans. I'm thinking, man, Texans are going to win by even more than I thought. I thought they were going to win. I thought it might be close. They're going to win by even more than I thought. And then they just stayed with 14 points. The Jets turned it around. Zach Wilson definitely played better. They didn't do a whole lot. They played better. I like the play calls. That's what's crazy about the Jets. So a lot of these teams that are struggling because the play call, a lot of them, even there's teams that might be in the playoffs that they could be contenders because of the play callers. The Jets, I like the system. I like the play calls. I think they're pretty smart, especially given what they have. So that's actually a positive here. If they can develop, that'll be the question, which is not a negative or a positive right now. It's definitely not answered. If they can develop these guys, Zach Wilson, etc., Jets are in business. I like the system. I like the play call. So that's a big positive for the Jets there. But yeah, then the Jets just turn around, come back. They just play better ball there. And John Franklin Myers, I think, had a monster game. He tipped the ball to himself, an interception. We saw Lawson do that in the Bengals game, which was crucial in that game. Pretty similar play, I thought. And Franklin Myers, I think, tallied 2 sacks on top. Every time I was watching this game, I watch every game, but every time I was watching this game, he looked like he was getting in there. So not really about the stats, but the stats kind of prove that he had a pretty damn good game. Texans, I'm gonna rip the Texans for the lack of effort. Usually that means on the players. Now, the lack of effort to me, the offensive coaching staff. And I don't like that they had Justin Reed sitting out. Well, I guess I would like to know what he did because I'm all about discipline. But I don't know. It didn't sound anything major. Well, I guess we won't need a comment on that. But I don't like the effort from the coaching staff, mainly on the offense side of things for the Texans. And maybe they didn't want to give full effort. Maybe they're tanking for Tua. Kidding, but maybe they are tanking. Maybe they don't care if they lose. Maybe. I would hope so because this is pretty bad. Because you get up pretty good. You scored that 14th point, 13 before the extra point, and you hit again. We talked about it. That's the only big play for the Texans. You hit that deep ball to Brandon Cooks. It was tightly covered. That ball had to be perfect. Brandon Cooks had to be kind of physical to fight off the DB and have some strong ass hands. And what happened? The ball was perfect, and Brandon Cooks did those things. Okay, and then what did Cooks have in terms of targets after that point? 3 or 4 more targets. They didn't really try to go back to that. I would say maybe it's Tyrod's fault for not taking that shot, but I didn't see any play calls that would fit that. So, yeah, just lack of effort, I'd say, from the play callers, play design, both. Maybe they didn't want. Who knows? Who knows? You don't want to ever really say the teams are losing on purpose. I don't think they're losing on purpose. I don't think they're game planning and calling the best game to put their team in the best situation. That's the best thing. That's the best way I can put it. All right. Jets get a momentum win there. It doesn't really mean a whole lot. Chargers, Broncos. I felt pretty good about the Broncos in this one. I was feeling this upset. I was really feeling this upset just because of matchup. The Chargers, it's all about matchup really when it comes to any team, but it's really the Chargers. It's all about the matchup. They don't match up too well against the Broncos. The Broncos, I talked about it. This is a similar matchup for the Broncos in playing the Cowboys and how they handle the Cowboys. A very similar matchup. On top of that, you can really run on the Chargers. And we saw that with Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams right off the gate. And their defense, their man coverage defense, the old school guy, Vic Fangio, I talked about it. Who gave the Chargers problems? Who gave the Chargers offense? It was a great offense. I still like the offense, even though it's extremely inconsistent, so I can't fully love it. But who gave them problems? Oh, we got the man coverage Baltimore Ravens coached by an old school defensive coordinator in Don Martindale. The Patriots, who is a pure man coverage NFL defense coached by the legend old school Bill Belichick. So we've seen both of those pop up. The Vikings don't run a lot of man coverage, but they did surprisingly, as bad as their defense was, slow the Chargers down. We got an old school guy like Mike Zimmer in there. And then you go into this Broncos game, you got old school Vic Fangio. Very, very similar defenses to the Ravens and a little less blitzing and the Patriots, but a lot of man coverage. And then there you go. So something with these tight physical man coverage teams. And the Broncos will mix it up. They're not like quite the Patriots and the Ravens where they're just going to run all man coverage, But they gave them problems. That's kind of a problem for the Chargers. They just could not, right off the gate. It was only 7-0, and it felt like the Broncos were outplaying them by more than 7-0. And then it was a 14-0. Bridgewater goes down, and he had a good rushing that rushing touchdown early from Bridgewater. I noticed a lot of Chargers defenders giving up, so I don't like that. Sometimes you see that with teams that kind of just gave up. Their season's done, but I don't like it wasn't a situation where, well, we suck, I'm not trying. It's definitely not that situation. It was definitely more of they trust in one other guy to make the play. Oh, he'll make the play. That's really what it looked like. People maybe argue with me. Go back and watch it. I saw a lot of guys standing around expecting somebody to make the play. I expected somebody to make the play. That was a bad look. So they need some new guys apparently in there, linebackers in there to be able to make those plays and want to make those plays. So that's bad right there. I don't like that. Then Teddy gets hurt. Trulot comes in and tries to gift the game away. Chargers go off an interception, go score a touchdown. They didn't score on the interception. You get my point. And then today in this game, we learned that Teddy Bridgewater with one leg is better than Drew Lock, and that's a done deal. It's no more discussion because on one leg, Teddy Bridgewater was far better than Drew Lock. Okay, I know Drew Lock got thrown into a situation, but Teddy Bridgewater played pretty well. He came back in, was limping around, was not 100%. He made a ridiculous play where he stiff-armed a pass rusher, was about to get sacked, and then a kind of crossbody, not crazy crossbody because it was still on the same side of the end zone, but he still had to go slightly across. Tight window, perfect ball. That was a hell of a play by an injured Teddy Bridgewater. So I was thrilled with that. I like the way the Broncos play. They're playing pretty tough, physical. I like the way they play. I like the way they game plan for this game. I think their play callers take too much heat. It hasn't been great this year. It hasn't been good. But I don't really mind it. I think people just don't like, they kind of complain when they do a 1st and 10 run, or if they don't run on 1st and 10, they're also going to complain. And then when it's 2nd and 10, they didn't run on 1st, they're going to complain that they ran the ball because they kind of played for 3rd. You know, I don't like playing for 3rd, but there's something when you're a good running team like that, physical, and you're playing a team like the Chargers, and I don't think there was any complaining about this game, but you got to do it sometimes, you know. So I haven't really had... There was definitely games where the play callers were bad. There's definitely and there's better play callers out there, but I don't have as big of a problem as most. And there's been some games where again it's been bad. A game like the Browns though, people blame them for that. No, players just didn't play right. Defense was off that game, giving up too much time. But I really like the way the Broncos are playing right now. Take away that Eagles game and they're hot, you know, but that still exists. But Chargers. Team that could beat anybody but lose to anybody. They don't match up well. The teams that can manage the clock and teams that are very physical and teams that play man coverage and teams that can run the ball very well. So that's kind of the problem. There are teams that you may view as better than the Chargers, but they may match up well with them. You know, maybe a team like the Bills who don't run the football, you know, who don't manage the clock. You know, so it's a tricky team here, but it's pretty straightforward at what their positives and negatives are. It's pretty straightforward right now. Rams and Packers, a lot of action in this game. There was some turnovers in this game too. Another game, Matthew Stafford throws a pick 6, so he's on a little bit of a streak there. And we heard kind of going into this game that he's dealing with a back, a shoulder, I don't know, everything. And that's just. And I said when they traded for him, like overall, they got a good quarterback. I like him in LA, but this has been a problem. And people were actually arguing with me on that. I think it's because they didn't actually know the situation. They saw him playing. He will play. He's a tough son of a gun. He will play through injuries. He'll play through multiple injuries, but it definitely affects him. You know, it definitely affects him. And once again, it's been going since about 2016, 2017, top of my head, every single year. And there's times where he actually missed games too, but he's a tough guy, obviously. And it's kind of popped up again. So that was kind of the risk there. You know, they haven't had a whole lot of Von Miller. OBJ's been in there for 2 weeks, and they'll probably get him. He got a deep touchdown. They'll probably get him going more. But all those picks they trade away, it's hurting right now. But they're still, at the end of the day, they're a good team. You know, this team's gonna be in the playoffs. I mean, right? And you know, Stafford's gonna play good ball still. But there's some things that's understandable if you're worried a little bit. You know. But yeah, we've seen. Both teams muff punts, what led to scores in this game. It did feel like, all right, Packers are going to make this out of hand. And I know the Rams are fighting back. They hit the deep balls. Van Jefferson got going on a deep ball, and later Odell. You know, and they get back. And now the Rams are fighting back, and the Packers go score, and now the Rams are fighting back. But the Packers had control of most of this game. Rodgers, I mean, just some of the throws Rodgers makes. Like, it's just, and Brady did it for so long. You used to say that about Brady. For a while, it's like you see him make the throw, you see it over and over again, but every time it happens, you're still, you know, I get goosebumps sometimes and stuff like that. You know, if you love football and you see those just perfect balls in crazy traffic, or even if it's not in traffic. So Rodgers just continues to do that, and it's just one like, it's Rodgers, does that all the time, but it still kind of gets me, you know. So they go out and make those. You know, Randall Cobb minus the muff punt seemed to be big in this game. I think he exited the game with an injury at one point. But obviously Devontae Adams going to have a big game getting Marquez Valdes-Scantling. As beat up as the Packers are right now, I mean, I know they got Aaron Jones back, but they're missing Alvin Jenkins. They're still missing Bakhtiari. They're missing Zadarius Smith, who's a big-time pass rusher. They're missing Jair Alexander, who's one of the best corners in football. Am I forgetting somebody? Probably. Robert Tonyan went down for the year. How could I forget? They're still balling. They still look like maybe the team to beat in the NFC. So that's a big time win for them. I was pretty confident with the Packers this one being home. Rams on a little bit of a struggle bus right now. And in the first game in the cold, that's never fun for any team. It's not certain players can't play, and it's not that. Certain players probably can play better in the cold. Aaron Rodgers, an example. But first game in the cold is never fun for anybody. So I was pretty confident with the Packers in that one. It's a good win for them. Rams got to figure it out. They got the Jags next, so let's hope they can figure it out for their sake. Vikings and 49ers. Looking at all these notifications here. But 49ers keep continuing to roll. They scored 34 points this game. They pounded the football in this game. They dominated, just pounding the football. In second half, they really took off doing that. Right at the end of the first half, felt like, using Elijah Mitchell, using Deebo Samuel, who has a groin injury, so that sucks because he is this offense. I know they got other guys that can play, Elijah Mitchell, and Ayuk's getting going here and there. Garoppolo's playing better. Well, Garoppolo's a little off target throwing downfield in this game, but they didn't really need to throw downfield. Just so physical, just out physical. The Vikings in this one, pound the football, managing the clock as well, because the Vikings are a team that want to manage the clock as well. 49ers just did a good job being more physical, being very, very successful running the ball, whether it was inside or out, draining the clock when they needed to. Important situations where the Vikings they're going to get back in this one. Let's just work this field, wear them out, make the offense on the sideline. That's 49ers. That's Kyle Shanahan's. That's his game. Juwan Jennings was actually a pretty good factor in this game as well. But yeah, 49ers kind of just worked them in the second half. The Vikings were fighting back, though. The Vikings, and credit the 49ers defense flying around the field and creating turnovers, because the Vikings are a team that really doesn't turn the ball over. Kirk Cousins threw a pick, and Cook fumbled on the play he got injured on. So that was huge. Take away those turnovers. The Vikings do what they normally do and not turn the ball over. The Vikings I think they probably win this game. Debatable, I guess, because the 49ers were able to move the ball when they wanted to. So, but even though that's the main thing, the 49ers worked them physically, running the football. You got to credit the 49ers defense for stepping up there. This is reminding me of the end of last year for the Vikings defense. So many guys out, and they're looking like a real bad defense, look like the worst in football. And that's kind of what happened this game on the entire defensive line, being out. Literally, Danielle Hunter, Everson Griffin, Michael Pierce, Delvin Tomlinson, so that's not good. Anthony Barr going down in the game, and then we got offensive injuries all of a sudden as well. So just remind me of last year for the Vikings, so it's a tough go. They're still in the playoffs in that 7th seed spot. That's a big win for the 49ers because they go to that 6th. They got that head-to-head win over the Vikings. They hopped them. So that was big. What Deebo is just so electrifying. I hope he's okay. Heard he could miss a game or two because they're playing it safe probably. Because he is so electrifying. He's such a good player. It's just one of those where he's in the backfield. He's coming in motion on an end around. He's getting the ball. But you still can't stop it because he's got a good mixture of, and we saw that at South Carolina, the speed and the physicality. It's the 49ers type of guy. It's Kyle Shanahan type of guy, and he's absolutely electrifying, and he could make plays as a receiver downfield as well. So it's extremely fun to watch because the Niners, I picked them to make the playoffs, and then I was picking them to win games earlier this year, and they were letting me down, and it just didn't feel right. The play styles, the play calls, the defense, not a lot of energy. It's just pretty much only Deebo Samuel out there. It just didn't feel right. Now it feels right. So it's fun to watch. It's good to see that. The Vikings, they were getting going before this one, and they kind of let you down here. The offense did enough. I suppose that they struggled a little bit in the red zone near the goal line. Offense did enough though. Defensively, they are too beat up, but it is what it is. You got to buckle up, make some plays, and they're really not. They started the game with a Harrison Smith interception, but when you're missing a whole D line, I don't really expect them to stop the run. But this was pretty ugly. It's pretty ugly. Too many wide open lanes here. First guy missing the tackle sometimes as well. So, tough one for the Vikings there. 49ers really just punched them in the mouth on that one. What a shit show Sunday Night Football was. It was a shit show before the turnovers. It was a shit show when we had what was it? It was early, and we get the refs throw Marquise Brown catches the ball at the first down marker, but he takes away his own forward progress. shit show. Two guys kind of grab his face mask, grasp it, I'd say. Debatable on if they actually grabbed it or not, but they threw a flag. They did a discussion, picked it up. That always confuses me, so shit show again. And the Ravens get on the ball, and they fake a punt. They get it. Then the refs discuss and then say the ball wasn't allowed to be snapped yet. Sounds like a shit show. Then you see a replay of it. The refs leave the area to allow them to snap the ball. So the refs allowed them to snap the ball, and they took that away. That's wrong. That's a shit show again. And then the Browns got 12 men on the field. They got to call a timeout, but the refs were supposed to allow them to sub it. And then anyways, the next outing here, they have 12 men on the field, free first down for the Ravens. Jesus Christ. So right then and there, before any turnovers, it was an absolute shit show. And then we just got bad quarterback play. Lamar made some incredible plays, things he only can do. But I was thinking during this game, if somebody that's never watched the NFL, they're just getting the NFL, it's the first game they're watching, they're thinking, this is the battle between the worst quarterbacks in the NFL, right? And this Lamar guy can move a bit. It's pretty fun to watch, but, based off this one game. So Baker's definitely not 100%, but he's definitely not playing good football. He was fortunate he wasn't picked up more, really. So just really bad passing game from these quarterbacks. So it was a little bit of a mess of a game there. Really, the Browns should find a way to win this game because it was some stat that the last 41 teams won when the opposing starting quarterback threw 4 interceptions. So the Browns are the first team since 2013 to do that. So it's 1-41 now. The Ravens were actually able to be that only team to do that. So the Browns really should be able to figure something out and win. I hated the play call where it was Jarvis Landry was at quarterback. It was Wildcat, but he's at quarterback, and he didn't end up trying to throw from the pocket, but the play call was for Jarvis Landry to stay in the pocket right behind the offensive line and make a throw. But he did step up, pretty much in the middle of the field, and he held the ball too long. Why? He's not a quarterback. Non-quarterbacks aren't going to realize, these defensive linemen are actually pretty quick. They're going to come after him. They don't have to deal with those guys. And he held the ball too long. It's just pure stupidity. I understand getting a jet sweep and throw, end around and throw, getting the guy outside and throwing on the run because usually a guy's wide open then, but that was just stupid play calling. So Stefanski got that hangover from winning Coach of the Year. It happens a ton. You'd be surprised how much it happens. If you watch, if you understand football, But and then to the even with that, I don't even know if the Browns score. I do know the Browns didn't even score their only touchdown this game. I know people are arguing about it, but that Njoku touchdown was not a touchdown, just not a touchdown. You look at it over and over again. It's funny too because the way people explain that, even the announcers in that game. Well, let's start with the front view, the all front view that people think you look at the front view of Njoku. Then people are saying it stayed off his leg, so it didn't hit the ground. Well, if you look at it, the football is like about this big. All right, so one side of the ball is touching his leg, and I'm talking the face view of Njoku, looking at it from the front, not from the back of the end zone. One side of the ball is touching his leg. The other side, we can't see if it's on the ground. You see his hand. You see all 5 fingers, and the ball sitting behind it. So very, 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 very likely the ball is sitting on the ground on that side of the football behind his hand. But it's an assumption. That's where the inconclusive evidence comes into play. I don't like inconclusive evidence. Like if I'm sitting there, I'm like, all right, that ball's got to be touching the ground. If I make the rules, I'm going to say, that's incomplete. But that's not. I don't make the rules. That's where the inconclusive evidence comes into play, right? Because you do see all 5 of his hands. So his hand's not touching the ball, holding up the other side. The leg's holding up one side. It's sitting behind his hand. All right, so that's inconclusive evidence. Let's take a look at the other side. The other side, the ball is laying on that side where we think it's sitting behind his hand. It is lying on the ground. It is lying on the ground, so there's no more just because one side is inconclusive evidence doesn't mean the other side gets wiped away. And the announcers were funny in this game because we saw that backside, and we see them say, all right, the ball bounced off the ground. And then we look at the front side like, well, wait a minute. It doesn't look like it from this side. Really, it doesn't matter what the front side says because if the ball is on the ground when he does not have possession yet on the backside, the ball is on the ground. The ball has touched the ground. It's just stupidity. It's pure stupidity. So I wasn't surprised. I guess I was a little surprised, but because the NFL has such a thing with not changing their calls because they don't want to look bad. If the call was originally called incomplete, then they would have called it incomplete. I'm 100% certain. You can't even debate it on me. It was not a catch. So the Browns' only touchdown, and then for anybody else out there, didn't give a shit who won either of these games. Unfortunately, I'm a Vikings fan, so no bias here at all. People that watch know that. So just for anybody that's new. Just a lot of stupidity going on there. More so not with the refs, even though I don't like that. It's the most important spot. But people explaining it, people saying, well, the front side looks okay. I don't even though the front side to me doesn't look okay. The ball was clearly on the ground. He doesn't have possession. That's, from the backside. That really should be the end of the story. But if you want to look at the front side, to me, it looks like it's probably on the ground anyways. And the backside kind of confirms that. So, yeah. But the Ravens get it done anyways. Browns had a shot at the end, if that's what you want to call it. But, Ravens did a good job getting pressure. Away's been great. Tyus Bowser's been fantastic. That was a good signing for the Ravens to get him back. Kind of a do-it-all type of guy, which is perfect for the Ravens system. They don't extend pass rushers, but they extended Tyus Bowser. That tells you something right there. Perfect with their unique style where we're kind of needed a bit of everything from your edge rusher. Some dropping in coverage, too, which is actually he might be the best. Crazy to think about. Tyus Bowser, if you take the edge rushers dropping coverage, which is definitely down the list in traits, for edge rushers, but not if you play for the Ravens, obviously. But Bowser could be the best in football. He might be the best in football at it, really. It's pretty crazy. But the Ravens defense kind of clutches up in this one. Ravens made plays when they needed to, even though Lamar had a bad game. Mark Andrews made plays when they needed to. Freeman ran really tough in that last drive, really tough. Browns got to dig themselves a little bit of a hole. They've had some injury situations. I don't know if Baker should be playing because he's not 100%. We see Kareem Hunt's dad kind of getting in on that as well. It's just not right, And then Jack Conklin just can't catch a break. He goes down again, so it's unfortunate for the Browns. I'd still say the bottom part of that AFC is, is definitely open. So we know the Browns deep down are probably a good football team. So, they could figure it out. Perhaps it's not going to be easy at all, but. Ravens, it is tough for the Ravens, even though they won, though, because it's a team that we view at the top of the AFC. I mean, especially looking at their record, are they a top team in the AFC? And the AFC is pretty wide open, but is that team that I saw, I don't want to base too much off one game, but is that a team I can trust? Because the playoffs is you're week after week after week, you're playing the very best teams, and you have to stay consistent. Can I trust that team to do that? If they slip up once, it's all it takes for you to go down. And a game like that last night makes you, wonder a little bit. So you don't feel great about the Ravens. It's a win, a big-time win. It's a tough game. It's Sunday Night Football. They're always tough to get, but they got to clean some stuff up, that's for sure. But they get the win. It's a big one. That's going to wrap it up for my rants of Week 12. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Always talking on Twitter. We got to get back to Twitter because a lot of updates going on, a lot of news coming out. So I'll be back on there in a second. Always on there talking, but link down below for that. Check it out. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on. Much appreciated. That's going to do it, though. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.